All right. Very good morning, dear educators. This is Arulmozhi, and I am with the SpellBee International's content department since its inception, and I'm very proud to be associated with the organization, and also we are now partnering with the noble missions of WAS and HS4A global campaign. I'm very excited to be a part of this, and this session today from me will last about say for 15 to 20 minutes, and we're going to broadly see these important 7 dimensions, and I've chosen some examples from history, from way past and very recent, very contemporary illustrations also, as to how art and articulation have been the drivers of change. And the power of words is what I would like to call it, because I think some people would say actions speak louder than words, because that's a very known, very famous proverb, right? Everybody would want to say that actions are more powerful than words. But then for people to act, somebody had to push, right? And many a times these words have been those vehicles, and these words have motivated, persuaded, convinced, and compelled people to act, right? So this is what we're going to see today, how art and articulation have been the catalysts of social change or even transformation, how they have been the war cries, how they are the record of our evolution or even the causes of revolution. So that's what we're going to see now. I hope my chat screen is visible with you. Let's begin. So this, I hope my points are visible here. Political power, economic emancipation, health helpline, environmental engineering, or rather re-engineering, food first, or food for not thought, but stomach. I have struck thought, but it's not visible here. And community collaboration and personal progress. This is my love for alliteration. I'm so sorry about that. Please do bear with me. So yeah, everything is alliterative here, and we do take content seriously in SpellBee. Starting with the political power, how these words have really compelled people to act. This is, I'm sure everybody in India would know that this is a very important slogan that drove people to, okay, not everybody were there, but then there was this aware intelligentsia in the country who were with the national leaders in their mission to get our country out of the shackles of the British government. Can anybody in today's meeting?
Harshal ma'am has answered.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not able to see the chat. Thank you so much, ma'am.
We can assist you. Yep.
Great. So I'll just make it fast because we have a lot to do. And this, I'm sure many of you would know, is a Communist Manifesto by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. And they have authored this. They were not really revolutionaries or national leaders, but they wrote this, which was the guiding force for many people, many world leaders, to adopt this philosophy into their governing of their countries. I'm sure many of you would know these leaders. Yes. May I allow them to unmute and speak, ma'am?
They can go for chat, Arul ma'am, because many of them are there, more than 220.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Can you tell me some leaders who adopted this philosophy of Marx? In China, in Cuba,
yet to receive answers, ma'am.
South America. Yes, ma'am, I'm looking at the chat. I'm not able to see any answers. That's why I thought I can mute them, but then it's okay. It can get unruly, like you said. So yes, so Fidel Castro, yes, Che Guevara, and the Chinese leaders. So many of them, yeah. Mao Zedong, thank you so much. Thank you for typing and thank you for being interactive with me. So these leaders, or these for good or for bad, they adopted, they subscribed to this philosophy. And then we have this art. Can you tell me who is the creator of this art? Anybody is aware of this? Yes, Stalin also subscribed to the same thought. Who created this art? Anybody would know this type of? Yes. Thank you, ma'am. This is by Pablo Picasso. So this painting, and no, not Hussein. This is by Pablo Picasso, a Spanish artist. Does anybody know the name of this art? This is celebrated as the most powerful art that portrays the ugliness of war. This is considered as the anti-war, the epitome of anti-war art. Okay, I don't see any answers. It's called Guernica, 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 right? So yes, let's keep moving on. That's very famous in the world. This I'm sure many of you would have come across. This is a book by a young girl, like it says. Her name is Anne Frank, and she wrote about how she had to hide when the Nazis were ruling, and what a life it was. And this is for us to understand the mistakes we have done in the past, because it's not just us, the human beings who lived before us, the mistakes done by them. We have to learn history because we should not be repeating the same mistakes again. So one country ruling over the other for reasons beyond today's understandings or common sense. This is John Reed's book. It's titled as 10 Days That Shook the World. So he was with the Russian Bolsheviks, and he was very closely monitoring how they were carrying on their atrocities under Lenin's leadership. So this is also a book that shook the world. I'm sure this is a slogan that we would all know as we can. With this, Barack Obama took the presidentship, which is considered very significant. But even before that, farmers united, and this translates to also yes we can. This was like in 1970s. So this was their slogan too. And this is a book by George Orwell, which also politically destabilized. Many people started thinking, they started becoming more aware of the watchful eye of the government. And this is a very moving poetry by Langston Hughes. So he writes this poetry. All of these are many of these are in SpellBee books content, including this poem. So this is on democracy. Democracy will not come today, this year, nor ever, through compromise and fear. I have as much right as the other fellow has to stand on my 2 feet and own the land. I tire so of hearing people say, let things take that course. Tomorrow is another day. I do not need my freedom when I am dead. I cannot live on tomorrow's bread. Freedom is a strong seed planted in a great need. I live here too. I want freedom just as you. So when words take the form of poetry, it becomes even more powerful. So these were some examples. There are many more, but I've just chosen a few. Now let's see under economic emancipation. Everybody would remember the Great Depression, and we also had famine, and these were the slogans that were there. They did not want charity. They wanted jobs. I'm sure we all remember the soup kitchen as well. This is one of the major works with which many free market philosophies were drawn. So this is by Adam Smith. It's called An Inquiry into the Nature and Causes of Wealth of Nations. So he propounds free market liberalism, the invisible hand. So this is what the USA shows. And this is a very recent book by Capital in the 21st Century. And this author actually points to the hazards when wealth becomes majority of the wealth or assets. are only at the disposal of a few, the elite in the society, when wealth becomes concentrated. So this is what happens then. We cannot have islands of prosperity in an ocean of poverty. This is many forms of these quotes have been used by many people. Exactly this was propounded by Manmohan Singh. And why is economic freedom very important? Because unless we have economic liberty, there can be no other liberty, right? So this is by Margaret Thatcher. So this is how words have moved people to act on this. And when it comes to health, in our SpellBee projects on fluency, we are going to ask students come up with their own posters, with their own artwork and infographics such as this. So when it comes to health, can you guess what causes the maximum number of deaths in the world? It's not war. War is the least. Majority of the world's death is caused by heart and circulatory disorders. These are lifestyle diseases. And this is the major component. So an infographic like this would make people to trigger to think the kind of lifestyle that people are living. Air pollution kill about 13 people every minute. And these are statistics validated by the UN. So UNICEF and I've taken only from them. This is from World Health Organization. According to them, they say 2 billion people don't have access to safe drinking water. That's a lot of people, don't you think? And today we have naturopathy or alternative medicines and cures for even deadly diseases. The world is now leaning towards holistic medicine. So this has roots in many of our Siddha and Ayurveda and many of our natural herbal cures. And also how health is not just about the physical well-being, how our mind is very important. So this is from Sri Aurobindo's escalation of mind, how we are and how we should be progressing to, where we should be progressing to. And this is also from Sri Aurobindo's. So what is yoga and what is siddhi, and how do we attain this, and what are the different aspects that we have to be mindful of and take control of, and make sure all of these are synced in harmony. So this is what I have under health. Let's move to the next dimension, which is environmental engineering or re-engineering. So these are powerful infographics, don't you think? So students can come up with their own infographics like this. So if Earth's history can be drawn in 12 hours, guess at which moment human beings have started their, I don't know if it's a positive thing or a negative thing, but they have entered this earth, as you can see here, in 11th hour, 59th second and 59th minute and 56th seconds. So this world is so old, but then again, as after we've entered, we have somehow managed to cause a lot of destruction, don't you think? And this is the carbon footprint. See how beautifully this infographic is designed. So it's not just about data, how data is presented. So this is what we want students to think about also. So it's not just writing in paragraphs and paragraphs, also how to, creatively design their findings or their research. So this is, you can see China has the bulk, United States, and India is here. It's the big toe. So these are countries, and we can see the percentage they are contributing to the carbon footprint of the world, how polluting they are to the environment. So this is also a very simple analysis of how public transport can be a better solution when it comes to environmental pollution. The amount of space required to transport same number of passengers by car, by bus, or even by bicycle, that would also be a better idea than bus, right? So we are also not releasing any harmful gases into society, and very good for health also. So this is also another design, a beautiful slogan accompanies it. Animals are not objects, so they are released from the barcode. So life does not have a price. We can live like vegans do. And this is also a nice poster. No one in the world needs a rhino horn but a rhino. And this poor animal needs her fur. All the animals need their fur than human beings do. Otherwise, they would die of cold, don't they? So this is ego, whereas this is eco. This is what we call speciesism, when humans think every other animal or every other living thing is there for them to make use of, to profit from. That's not really true. That is speciesism. We are not superior to any other living being. So that is ego. As opposed to ego, we have eco, where we realize that we are all in this together and we are a part of it. And we don't we should not have control over it, because then what results is this destruction. They call this as the anti-development of development. I think without we completed this, let's check. Yes, we have. So let's move on to the next dimension, which is food. Very important, right? So world's hunger is getting ridiculous. There is more fruit in a rich man's shampoo than in a poor man's plate. So words like this will move people to think, okay, so students can, it doesn't take a lot. It only takes students to just put their words, coin words in powerful sentences. Poverty is a very complicated issue, but feeding a child is not. Poverty is the parent of revolution and crime. So what is food insecurity? This is also from UNICEF, out of 147 countries, 41% of households with children are moderately or severely insecure. What is insecure? Opposite of this. When you have food security, you have food is available around you. You have access, you can access it, and you can also afford it, and you can also use it. That's the fourth one. So this is what's lacking. About 41% of the people are either moderately or severely food insecure. They don't have access, or they don't afford it. They could not afford it. And 19% are severely food insecure. So about 605 million children are food insecure. We do not have food for them. And this is a movement started by I think Dyson in the US. He said, food, not bombs. Let's make more food and share with the world. And this is also a book, Full Planet, Empty Plates, The New Geopolitics of Food Scarcity. So this is a very recent book, whereas that example is quite old. So there are many books that have made people to think, and slogans like that many youth have come up with, and they are associating them with that cause. So now we have moved into this sixth sphere, which is community. I'm sure this is familiar with many of you. Inequality, when one side of the tree bears a lot of fruit and the other side does not, and people who are here suffer. And equality is when they both get the same ladders, which are of the same height, because when the tree is leaning towards one side, this is of no help at all. So this is equality. But equity is when we ensure that whatever is presented as a cure to them actually meets the needs. So this is equity, but this is justice, correcting the system. But very recently, I also came across this. So this is the same. We can see this is reality. This is equality. Everybody gets the same box. This is equity. We are giving the boxes or the resources to people who actually need it and not to people who don't need it. And what is justice? Justice is when removing it. So that's actually not required, right? But this is something that I recently came across, inclusion, where everybody is included and nobody is left out. So this is another poster or on this topic, communal harmony. I'm sure we know this person who has delivered this beautiful anaphora replete speech. I have a dream, right? So this speech by Martin Luther King Jr. is a very moving speech. I think you should also make your students listen to this, make them understand the power of words. So these today may seem very normal, like, yeah, equality, everybody should be treated equal, right? But then there were times when we owned people, when people were bonded to work for life, and people were not treated well. I think in some places, also in some ways, even today, we have a discrimination, and because this is a testimony to that. This movement, Black Lives Matter, I'm sure everybody is familiar with this. So I think students who are now sitting in your classrooms today should not, when they come out of the system of education under your guidance, should not have to still fight for this. So this is also a nice simple poster. You are the only animal that discriminates. So stop female feticide. Animals do not discriminate. Why do we discriminate on gender? And diversity makes us stronger. Just the use of colors, a very simple poster, but with a very meaningful message. And another one, similar, a very simple poster. An Arab, an immigrant, a woman, a teacher, and I'm also furious because it's just not right what's happening in society right now. So that's how people resist. And this is also a very cute poster, I would say. God bless the whole world, no exceptions, by a child. And we have to understand how we're all in this together, right? We cannot be like this because it's stupidity. It's just that it's a very big boat. We are all in the same boat, a very, very big boat. We are not able to see the hole on the other end of the boat. Just that. Now, I think I'm moving to the last topic, which is personal progress. Many of us know that Leonardo da Vinci was a great artist, but do we also now know that he had invented a lot of things? There are many machines that he drew, and they are now only taking flight, right? So these were, okay, this is a book, not by him, but he has drawn a lot of blueprints for so many flying machines and war machines and everyday tools, which are visionary, because these missions were like way ahead of his time. And also, I'm sure you would know Nikola Tesla. He wanted free energy, and this was so very back, like not today. It's not happening today. Now, even now, we are not doing it because it's not going to be profitable to some people. When they started it out, when he shared that this was his vision, they stopped financing the project because they did not want free energy for people. But he had the mind, and also he also had the solution, but then people did not want it back then, and even now, I would say. So this is what I think we should do when we are, because it's our very recently even Supreme Court had said that we have the power to raise our voice if we are succumbed, or if we are quelled, or if our basic human rights are not met. We have the power to resist. We should resist. And that is how many things have come, because otherwise we would still not have voting rights. We would still be in constrained by four walls. I think we have come out, and we still have to make our voices heard. So don't tell women how to dress, tell the rapists not to rape. And this book by John Ruskin, actually an article under this this had impressed none other than Mr. Gandhiji, who, when he read this in his train journey, he thought this has to be taken to people, and he translated into Sarvodaya. And this speaks about how we cannot have islands of prosperity, and how craftsmanship is important. And everybody, when we read, we get inspired. So when we read the right book, Mahatma Gandhi, when he read this book, he got inspired, and he came up with Sarvodaya, and he translated majority of this key learnings. He adopted them, and by virtue of him adopting all of these things, I think many of us also adopt, we copy, right? So that's one power. When people who have influence, especially teachers like you, are inspired by the right things, you will inspire even more students. So this is a quote from The Fountainhead, a book by Ayn Rand. throughout the centuries, there were men who took first steps down new roads, armed with nothing but their own vision. So you have the power to shape these students, your students' thinking, because they are going to be the torchbearers of the future. And what you're teaching in class today will be that guiding forces for their lives. And the power of the people is stronger than the people in power. Make your students understand, though they are small, their voices can be louder. So expressions in the form of art and articulation have and will continue to change the world. And I think it doesn't matter how old a student is, because age is just a number. If they are encouraged and if they have the platform, because we are giving the platform to them and the encouragement can come from you, we can create the future leaders who are more attuned with meeting the needs or making the world more secure and sustainable. I think what the previous generation or the current generation is failing to do can be even be cured or alleviated by the actions and expressions of the children who are right now in your class. With that, I'll stop. Thank you so much for the.
So much, ma'am. Complete. Sorry.
I'm done.
Yeah, thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. I could see how much time you would have taken to align all these things and then to work for this today's presentation.